Shoken! Welcome to Igor's Dojo, the training ground for honing your Japanese language skills. Our topic today will be the expansion of your vocabulary by learning the names of the biggest and the most famous cities of Japan, as well as the review of the particles in general. You will see these two elements combined, so to speak, in the video because we will use the city names to help us in our further practice and mastery of the particles, which are, in my humble opinion, one of the most important, if not the most important, point in the Japanese grammar. Here, all of the particles are listed with their most important usages, as you can see in this table, and I have created this section of the video to give you a quick rundown or a quick recap of the particles I have covered in the previous videos. I will put the link to the videos in the description below, and you will find also a link in the upper right corner to a playlist that covers the most important videos that deal with the particles themselves. So let's take a brief look at the particles and see what they are all about. The first particle is wa. It is the topic marker, and it is also used to show contrast or negation. After that we have ga, the subject marker, and the marker I like to call a specialized subject marker because it usually works only with a certain set of verbs and always appears with them in one form or another, but all out of those special verbs, the most important groups are the four senses verbs, abilities, and desires. After that we have ni. Ni is used to mark specific points in space and time, as well as to mark destination of certain movements, and finally with some verb play, it is also used to convey a purpose for something. After that we have de, the place of action, usually paired with a transitory verb. After that we have instruments and means marking, as well as to show reason for something. After that we have o, that is the direct object or the general object particle in the Japanese language, and it also shows the origin of a certain movement and marks the space through which certain movement is taking place. After that we have to. To is relatively simple. It has the and with meaning, and it's also used when you want to count certain items that you have a limited number of. However, if the opposite is the case and you only need to mention a few of the items from a very long or inexhaustible list, you are using ya when counting. After that we have kara and made. They usually appear in pairs, or they appear, of course, in their special usages as make a singular appearance in their special usages, because you can see here that kara has the from general meaning, and you can use that in both connotations of space and time, and it also marks a giver of something. After that we have made. It has the general meaning of to until, and as you might have expected from it, it is used to mark certain extents or extremities. After that we have mo. It is the particle of addition and inclusion. It has the even meaning and can reinforce negation, make it even stronger. After that we have e. It is a motion towards something or someone, and it really roughly translates to or towards. Like I have said in the video dedicated to this particle, it can be often substituted with ni without, let's say, compromising the meaning, but if you can, it is very useful for you to remember that to towards is the primary usage of e. And finally we have no. It is the possession or ownership particle, and it has attributive functions. Like I have addressed in its own original video, it is often used to say, to denote or to show out of which material is something made. Like you want to say it is a wooden house, ki no ie, for example. So in a nutshell, we have here listed all of the particles, and I have given you a brief overview. So if you need to take an in-depth look at them, if you want to study them more, I suggest you refer to the videos I will be putting in the description below. Now, once again, as it is customary here in Igor's Dojo, we have the vocabulary overview section. I have listed all of the words I will be using in the following sentences in our next sections, and I suggest that you familiarize yourself with these words if in case there are some of these words that you do not know or that you need to review. You can always pause the video here if you want to study them in depth, or return once the video is over. So I will give you a couple of moments here to examine the list before moving on to our next section. Are you ready? Then let's go. Now, here is the rules section. Like in all of my review videos, this rules section covers the basic principle on how the video is going to work. Because this time I will provide you with all the necessary details for a single sentence that you need only to analyze and fill out with the correct particles. So you will be provided with a Romaji transcription, you will see the English translation, and all you need to do is to put in or to fill out the sentence with all of the appropriate particles, because the accent or the goal of today's video is the vocabulary expansion, and we are using the particles only as an additional benefit or as a backdrop of the video, because our first purpose today is to learn new words, while all of the, let's say, particle reviewing or returning to particles, touching on specific points, is just something that we will add, something that will make this video even more useful to you, and something that will help you further and in your Japanese language studies. So once again, you will have sentences that you need to fill out. I will read them twice, and after that I will read the whole list, and after that, of course, you will be provided with a section where you will find the answers. However, my own suggestion here is that once I finish reading the drill section, you pause the video and try to solve all of these sentences on your own. When you have tried, and when you have written down, or when you have, let's say, done all that you think that is possible for that drill set, you can always unpause the video and move on to the solutions, where I will give further explanations about the sentences and the usages of the particles. So I wish you luck, and we will be moving to our first set of Japanese cities. And let's see what do we have here. In our first set, we have covered the most important cities, and that is Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, and Yokohama. These are arguably the four most biggest Japanese cities, and as you can see here, I have provided you with the kanji in the central part of this illustration, and after that you have the reading and the Romaji transcription. So the first city is Tokyo, after that Osaka, Yokohama, and Kyoto. My own suggestion here is that you write down all of these cities, and in case you are not focusing on the kanji, you can always practice their hiragana, of course, if you have need to master it further or to refine it further. So this is really giving you, let's say, a lot of leeway in case you have certain language goals you want to accomplish on your own. For example, if you are focusing on kanji, in the central part of the illustration you will have the kanji of the cities, but if that is not the primary focus of your studies at the moment, you will always have the hiragana and Romaji in these little boxes you see on the screen in the secondary part of the illustration. So once again, the four cities here are Osaka, Tokyo, Yokohama, and Kyoto. And now I will be moving on to our first drill set of the sentences, where we will use these cities in our examples. Now, let's take a look at our first drill section, or our first set of sentences meant for your practice. Kyo empty, Tokyo empty, ikimasen ga ashita empty kanarazu ikimasu. Today I will not go to Tokyo, but tomorrow I will go for sure. Our second sentence, Kobayashi-san, empty. Osaka, empty. Motorbike, empty. Jidosha, empty. Shuri shimasu. Mr. Kobayashi repairs motorbikes and cars in Osaka. Third sentence. Tokyo Tower, empty. Zenbu, empty. Tokai, empty. Miemasu. You can see the whole city from the Tokyo Tower. Our fourth sentence. Kono densha, empty. Osaka, empty. Eki, empty. Ikimasu. This train goes as far as the Osaka station. And our fifth sentence. Yoshida-san, empty. Tegami, empty. Kaisha, empty. Shacho, empty. Dashimashita. I sent Mr. Yoshida's letter to the president of the company. Now I will read the entire list once again. First sentence. Kyou, empty. Tokyo, empty. Ikimasen ga. Ashita, empty. Kanarazu ikimasu. The second sentence. Kobayashi-san, empty. Osaka, empty. Motorbike, empty. Jidosha, empty. Shuri shimasu. The third sentence. Tokyo Tower, empty. Zenbu, empty. Tokai, empty. Miemasu. The fourth sentence. Kono densha, empty. Osaka, empty. Eki, empty. Ikimasu. And the final fifth sentence. Yoshida-san, empty. Tegami, empty. Kaisha, empty. Shacho, empty. Dashimashita. Now this is the appropriate time for you to stop the video here, to give yourself enough time to solve all of these sentences before moving on to the next video section where I will present the results of these sentences. So it is the most opportune time for you now to pause the video before moving on. And now let's see the results of our first drill section. The first sentence, 今日は東京へ行きませんが、明日は必ず行きます is a textbook example of verb being used to demonstrate a contrasting relationship between the two clauses of the sentence, while a here is used to show the goal of our movement, and that is Tokyo according to the sentence. In our second sentence, Kobayashi-san は大阪でモーターバイクと自動車を修理します。We see four particles with wa marking the topic, Kobayashi-san, then the particle de marking Osaka as the place of action, while to conveys the meaning of and between motorbike and jidosha, wa, and finally the particle o is used here to mark the direct objects, motorbike and jidosha, for our transitive verb shuri shimasu. The third sentence, Tokyo Tower kara zenbu no tokai ga miemasu, is rather simple, with kara conveying the meaning of from, then no functioning as the attributive, and finally ga marking the subject of our potential verb mieru, or in other words, what can be seen in its entirety from the Tokyo Tower, and that is the whole Tokyo itself. Our fourth sentence, この電車は大阪の駅まで行けます is focused on まで the most, signifying a certain limit or boundary, while wa marks the topic of the sentence and the particle no functioning as a marker of ownership. And finally, our fifth sentence, Yoshida-san no tegami o kaisha no shacho e dashimashita, is a show of the possession usage and the ownership usage of the particle no, while o marks the direct object and a the recipient of the letter, or in pure grammar terms, the goal of our action, or the recipient of our sending. So in summary, these sentences have shown us the most frequent and the most important usages of all the particles listed here. And now let's see the second list of the biggest Japanese cities. As you can see from this illustration, in the second list we have Hiroshima, Sendai, Kobe, and Chiba. Once again, in the inner part of this illustration there are kanji for you to study, and in this outer white boxes you can see their readings and their transcription. So once again, the cities we will be focusing on are Hiroshima, Sendai, Kobe, and Chiba. And here is the second drill section of our sentences. Hiroshima-shi, empty, Kita-densha, empty, Kobe-shi, empty, torimasu. The train which came from Hiroshima passes through Kobe. Our second sentence, Kobayashi-san, empty, Kaisha, empty, Sendai-shi, empty, hirogari mashita. Mr. Kobayashi's company has spread to Sendai city. Our third sentence, Watashi tachi, empty, basu, empty, asa hayaku, Chiba-shi, empty, hairimashita. Our bus entered Chiba early in the morning. Yamada-san, empty, Shigoto, empty, Sendai-shi, empty, tazuneraremasen. Because of his work, Mr. Yamada cannot visit Sendai. And our final sentence, Senso, empty, Ato, empty, Hiroshima-shi, empty, Atarashi Kojo, empty, Oi. After the war, there are many new factories in Hiroshima city. Once again, the entire list. First sentence, Hiroshima-shi, empty, Kita-densha, empty, Kobe-shi, empty, torimasu. The second sentence, Kobayashi-san, empty, Kaisha, empty, Sendai-shi, empty, hirogari mashita. The third sentence, Watashi tachi, empty, basu, empty, asa hayaku, Chiba-shi, empty, hairi mashita. The fourth sentence, Yamada-san, empty, Shigoto, empty, Sendai-shi, empty, tazuneraremasen. And the final sentence, Senso, empty, Ato, empty, Hiroshima-shi, empty, Atarashi Kojo, empty, Oi. Now, there is only one thing I would like to address at this point, and that is the suffix shi. It is very frequent in various forms of transportation and in public notices, and it is roughly equivalent to the English the city or the city of. So, for example, Hiroshima-shi is practically the city of Hiroshima, and of course the same goes for Kobe-shi, the city of Kobe, and so on and so forth. And now this is the most opportune time for you to pause the video to give yourself enough time to solve all of these sentences before moving on to the solutions section. So I suggest that you pause the video now. And now let's see the solution of our second drill section. The first sentence in our second set, Hiroshima-shi kara Kita-densha wa Kobe-shi wo torimasu, shows kara once again as the marker for from, then wa as the topic marker, and finally o marks the space through which a certain movement occurs. In this case, it is the passing of the train. In the second sentence, Kobayashi-san no kaisha wa Sendai-shi ni hirogari mashita, we see the most important usage of the three particles, no marks ownership, wa the topic, and ni the specific point in space. In this case, it is Sendai. In our third sentence, Watashi tachi no basu wa asa hayaku Chiba-shi ni hairimashita, the same combination of particles can be found alongside the same usage. So once again, wa is marking the topic, no ownership, and ni specific point in space. In this time it is Chiba, the city of Chiba. However, the fourth sentence, Yamada-san wa shigoto de Sendai-shi ga tazuneraremasen, introduces de as the marker for reason, while wa still functions as a topic marker. Here, the novelty is ga, marking the city of Sendai as the subject for our verb in the potential form, or in other words, what Mr. Yamada will not be able to visit due his work. And our fifth sentence, Senso no ato ni Hiroshima-shi ni atarashi kojo ga oi, illustrates both of the most frequent usages of ni, space and time marking, while no is presented with its attributive functions and the particle ga marking the subject of the sentence, and that is the new factories, the many new factories that have been built after the war in Hiroshima. And now we are moving to our final list of the biggest Japanese cities, and these are Fukuoka, Sapporo, Kitakyushu, and Kawasaki. Once again, kanjis are in the middle, and in the outer side of this illustration are their readings and their Romaji transcription. So we will be focusing on Fukuoka, then on Sapporo, Kitakyushu, and Kawasaki in the third drill set. And now I will be reading the first sentence of our third drill set. Yamada-san empty, Fukuoka-shi empty, kimashita. Mr. Yamada came from Fukuoka. Our second sentence, Kawasaki-shi empty, moratta hon empty, yomemasen. I cannot read the book I got in Kawasaki. Our third sentence, Sapporo-shi empty, engineer empty, Yokohama empty, atarashii densha empty, tsukurimasu. Engineers from Sapporo will construct a new train in Yokohama. Our fourth sentence, Fukuoka-shi empty, ikumae empty, watashi empty, Kobayashi-san empty, jitensha empty, shuri shimasu. Before he leaves for Fukuoka, I will also repair Mr. Kobayashi's bicycle. And our final sentence of the drill set, Naomi-chan empty, Suzuki-san empty, motorbike empty, Kitakyushu empty, ikimashita. Naomi-chan and Mr. Suzuki went to Kitakyushu by motorcycle. So once again, I will read the entire list. Yamada-san empty, Fukuoka-shi empty, kimashita. Our second sentence, Kawasaki-shi empty, moratta hon empty, yomemasen. Our third, Sapporo-shi empty, engineer empty, Yokohama empty, atarashii densha empty, tsukurimasu. Our fourth, Fukuoka-shi empty, ikumae empty, watashi empty, Kobayashi-san empty, jitensha empty, shuri shimasu. And the final sentence, Naomi-chan empty, Suzuki-san empty, motorbike empty, Kitakyushu empty, ikimashita. So once again, this is the perfect time for you to pause the video to give yourself enough time to find the correct particles for all of these sentences before moving on to the solutions section of this video. And let's see the solutions. In our first sentence, Yamada-san wa Fukuoka-shi kara kimashita is once again shown the most basic and the most important usages of wa and kara. Wa to mark the topic of the sentence, while kara to give us the meaning of from. In this case, that Mr. Yamada came from Fukuoka. Our second sentence is likewise not so complicated. Kawasaki-shi ni moratta hon ga yomemasen. We see here ni that marks the specific point in space, and that is the city of Kawasaki. After that, ga marks the subject, and that is the hon. That is also an integral part of the potential form of the verb yomu, and that is yomemasen, meaning that the book which we got in Kawasaki we cannot read. The third, Sapporo-shi no engineer wa Yokohama de atarashii densha o tsukurimasu. Now we see here four particles. No once again establishes the ownership relation here. Then wa we have as the topic marker, de as the location marker, and o as the marker for a direct object for tsukurimasu. So once again, the most basic and the most important usages are seen here. Wa the topic, the location, o the direct object, and no to once again mark ownership or possession in this case. Fukuoka shi e iku mae ni watashi wa Kobayashi-san no jitensha mo shuri shimasu. Our fourth sentence is likewise packed with various particles. A here marks, of course, the destination of our movement, ni a specific point in time, wa the topic, no ownership, and mo addition or inclusion. In this case, what will we be also servicing or repairing in this sentence, and that is Mr. Kobayashi's bicycle before he leaves for the city of Fukuoka. And finally, our fifth sentence, Naomi-chan to Suzuki-san wa motorbike de Kitakyushu e ikimashita. And we see here on 4 particles, to conveying the meaning of and, wa once again marking the topic, de means of transportation, and e the destination or the goal of their movement, and that was the city of Itakyushu. So this is once again our third drill section, this time a lot more complicated than the previous ones, but I have a feeling that you have already correctly resolved all of these sentences and that this was only the final icing on the cake. And here is a little omake or a bonus for those who wish to learn even more Japanese city names. And I have given here the kanji and also their readings and their Romaji transcription or their names if you want to be more precise. You have Akita, Maebashi, Aomori, Funabashi, Matsuyama, Fukui, Kurume, Fukushima, Gifu, Fukuyama, and Hakodate to use them for your practices. Otsukare-sama deshita, my dear Shokun. Thank you again for watching this review video. This time I wanted to try something new. This video is totally unscripted and I wanted to give you another bonus when returning to review the particles, and that is the increase of your vocabulary, namely the increase of your knowledge of the biggest and the most famous Japanese cities such as Osaka, Nagoya, Kitakyushu, Kawasaki, and the ones we have covered. So once again, I thank you very much for watching. In case you have any suggestions or if you want to see a specific topic covered in Igor's dojo, you can always leave a comment below. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you next time in the dojo. Sayonara!